Hey, good afternoon, everybody. For any of you that missed my new intro, where have I been? I've been at the gym 2-3 hours a day. And this dish is actually because of the gym, because one of the trainers told me that even though I'm down like 45-50 pounds, if I want to lose the rest, I'm not eating enough, which seems counterintuitive, but he was right. So what I did is I came up with a balanced stir fry that seems to be doing the job, and I'm starting to pack on a bit more muscle, and the fat is starting to go down, which is a good thing, right? So it's a really simple, easy recipe. There's 3 ingredients and some seasoning. First, you're going to need a pound of fresh chow mein noodles. Very important. Do not use like that packaged, pre-fried, crunchy stuff. This will not work. Any kind of green vegetable. This is sort of a baby bok choy. That's 1 pound of that, 1 pound of noodles. And I've got half a pound of these tofu. It's called tofu pao. They're tofu puffs. They're actually deep fried. And the nice part about these is they're all fluffy on the inside, so they soak up the seasonings. And so I got some oil for frying, some sesame oil, and what's important here for me anyways is high quality soy sauce. If you're gonna put sodium in your diet, make sure it's the good one. Don't get the cheap crap, because you're not using that much. And for this, no, I don't measure, I just season to taste. And also you can gauge visually from the color of the dish if you've got the right amount. So first thing to do is get the noodles going. This does do it in sequence. And what's important about the noodles, one thing I forgot to tell you. Yeah, it's been so long since I've shot one of these. I nearly forgot how to do it. It's hilarious. Anyways, when you buy the noodles, do not get the ones that say boil for 5 to 6 minutes. Get the ones that say you can either toss them in water for half a minute or you can stir fry them directly, because that's the consistency you want. Okay, so always check the back for that. First thing I'm going to do is get these going in some oil. Okay, so just start the pan over medium heat and just put some oil in the bottom. Probably 2 or 3 tablespoons. Again, I don't measure. These are like nice and soft. Okay, you can break them up a bit so they cook a little quicker. And what I'm going to do is just spread those out. Yeah, I had these in the deep freeze. I always freeze. I buy a bunch of good noodles when I can find them, and I freeze them because they freeze just awesome, and that way you don't have to worry about the best before date. And I only defrosted these for a while and they're just fine. So I'll just get that with the lid on to start frying and get after the vegetable. So I've got these rinsed and drained. So just cut the edge off in half. So the ends are in the compost. Oh, I missed a couple. Just pop those in a bowl. You can see a bit of steam forming. That's good. And you can hear a bit of a sizzle. So you can see the noodles are starting to fry. You don't want these to brown at this point. They will at some point and get nice and crunchy, which is how I like it. If you don't like it like that, if the water from the vegetables isn't enough, you can toss a bit more in to soften them up to your taste. And also, if they're not fried enough, you can put a bit more oil, but there's a fair amount of oil in the tofu puffs. So this again is a matter of preference, but that is looking slightly dry. So just, and as long as you're using a good healthy oil, you know, you compare anything you make at home to the bad fat content at a fast food place, and you'll quickly become a convert to this. Okay, that's good enough. So what you do is just toss in the vegetables, put the lid back on, and by the way, you can do this in a wok. I mean, I've just gotten so used to using my good old Dutch oven that I don't bother anymore. And this is where you can add a splash of the soy sauce, because the salt in the soy sauce will cause the water to come out of the vegetables faster. Not even necessary really to stir that. Leave the vegetables on top, put the lid on, and what that will do is get the water out of the vegetables and go down into the noodles and kind of soften them up. And in the meantime, then I'll chop up the tofu. These are ready to go as is, require no rinsing, processing, nothing like that. Okay, So what you do is just take one of these, cut it in half, cut that in half, and before I cut it, so you can see that lovely spongy texture on this. That just soaks up the soy sauce and the sesame oil and the flavors from the rest of the dish just great. And it always says do not eat, which means that at some point in time somebody ate that. It probably did not end well for them, especially with the sharp corners. So you can just leave that there for the time being and see how the vegetables are doing. For the simple reason is you want to make sure there's enough room in the pan. There we go. Oh, that's a little too hot. Let me turn that down a bit so you can see there's a bit of charring, but actually when the water finishes coming out of the vegetables, that will sort of deglaze the noodles and that caramel will come out and go into the dish. But you got to make sure you don't let it go too long or else it will just burn. That's a bit of the soy sauce too, probably that coloration there. So put in the tofu. Now this is where I do add more soy, and you'll see how it kind of soaks it up. And honestly, with the amount of sweating I'm doing at the gym in 2 or 3 hours, a little extra sodium is not going to kill me. But if you are on a sodium restricted diet for whatever reason, make sure that you're sensible and probably don't put in more than 1 or 2 tablespoons. Yeah, something just popped out of the pan. Some things never change. And you always do sesame oil last because the flavor degrades fairly quickly. And if you're not used to using sesame oil, one thing I got to tell you, some people are lazy with caps and they kind of half cap it, especially if it's hard to pop off. Always make sure you fully do it or the oil will go rancid, and it will go rancid quickly. Okay, lid back on and just let that simmer for a few minutes and it cooks pretty quick. Well, I had the lid on for a couple minutes and you can see all that moisture coming off the lid, right? And that's going back into the dish. So when you pick it up, tilt it so whatever was there goes back in. And so you can see how soft the noodles are getting now, eh? And the tofu is pre-cooked, okay? They keep it in the fridge part, but it is already pre-cooked and ready to eat, so you don't have to worry about that. What your end point here is taking a look at the vegetables. So you're going to see that the leaves have already started to wilt. That's good. And when you see the stalks are getting really bright green, yeah, that's a nice one right there. That's a good example. Okay, this can go for maybe another couple of minutes. And also, you got to remember, this for me, this is like food for 3 days, easy, 3 lunches when I get home. Because even though I'm increasing my calorie intake, I'm making sure I don't eat too much. It's a fine balancing act. You want to keep your metabolism jacked up without eating so much that you start storing fat. And at some point, I may start doing videos on other topics as well. I was thinking about doing a vlog on a couple of things, but no promises yet, because you know, see, vlogs don't have food costs, right? I may even get to the cookbook. I don't know. I'm just still busy these days. Okay, so a couple more minutes and we're good. I did look at the clock when I put this on, and this has been simmering for a grand total of 5 minutes. So this is really nice and easy and fast to make. You're not, oops, as long as it doesn't get away from you. You're not going to be at the stove all day or anything like that. Okay, so I'm just going to plate some up and eat it. Alright, so that's my post-workout stir fry. Thanks for watching, and I do hope I'll see you again. I won't say soon, but you'll see me again for sure.